I'm Harry Ruiz. That's Travis Rogers. And it's time for Locked On Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. On today's show, the Dodgers are once again baseball's main character with plenty of primetime games and national broadcasts scheduled. Plus, we're diving into the Dodgers farm system because MLB Pipeline and Keith Law just reminded everyone that this organization is built for now and probably forever. But first, Travis, Team Japan just published its World Baseball Classic roster. Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto are in, but Roki Sasaki is out.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of Dodgers in this tournament on a lot of different teams. I can't wait to see it. We'll get into it on today's episode of Locked On Dodgers, brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you are a new customer, you bet just $5 and you get $200 in bonus bets if you win.
Travis, he's holding it down every weekday afternoon from 3 to 6 on the Travis and DeMarco Show on 710 ESPN LA. And if you're outside Southern California or away from a radio, the ESPN LA app has you covered wherever you are. As for me, when I'm not on the call for USC football or Raiders games in Espanol, this is where I lock in, talking Dodger baseball with you. If you're new around here, glad you found us. You're exactly where you should be. And to our everydayers, you already know this show is built with you, not without you. If you're watching on YouTube, show us some love, please, with a like, drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss an episode. If you're listening on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or your podcast app of choice, a quick 5-star review goes a long way in helping other Dodgers fans find the show. And don't forget, the Locked On Dodgers listener line is always open, 279-3-LOCKED or 279-356-2533. All right, Samurai Stars rise. So Ohtani and Yamamoto are in, Sasaki is out. Fresh off of a World Series championship, both Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto are officially going for another world title because Travis, Japan has finalized its World Baseball Classic roster, and there's no surprise here. Ohtani, the best baseball player in the world, is going to represent his country. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, one of the best pitchers in the world, is in. He is their ace, and the Dodgers will once again be front and center on the biggest international stage baseball has to offer.
Yeah, they're going to have players all over this thing. Obviously, on the American team, the Japanese team, they're going to have players everywhere. And as far as Team Samurai goes, and the kind of putting it together with the Dodgers and whether or not this is good, bad, or somewhere in between, I think this is about right if you're a Dodger fan, because I think the two things that you can take to the bank with Shohei Ohtani and Yoshinobu Yamamoto is that they have been around the block a lot. They know exactly how to get their bodies ready. They know exactly how hard they can push themselves, how hard they cannot push themselves. And I think that they're going to go out there and deliver a performance in the WBC that is outstanding, while perhaps just as importantly for us, maintaining their progression and getting ready for the regular season for the Dodgers. Those guys they're old pros, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in the best possible way. Just they know what they know what they don't know, they know what they can and can't do to get ready for something like this. I don't know if the same thing would be true of Sasaki. He's just a younger guy. He just hasn't been around as often. He hasn't been through it as frequently. And I do think that coming into this season, he is a question mark, might be a little strong, but the unknown. I think that is he going to be a starter? Is he going to morph into more of a relief kind of sort of guy? What is his path to get into this rotation this year? And let's get the Dodgers' hands on him more than anyone else. Let's see what he can do for the Dodgers in spring training and get ready for the regular season. I think that's more important for him and for the Dodgers than those other two guys, because quite frankly, Harry, I don't worry about Ohtani and Yamamoto. They're going to be fine. They're going to do what they need to do.
Yeah, and I wouldn't call it surprising, but definitely interesting that Sasaki isn't on the Team Samurai World Baseball Classic roster, because we don't know every player of that Japan is eligible for them on this roster, but I feel like he could easily be one of their best players once you let's make a roster out of the best Japanese players and include him out there. But I feel that this is positive for the team, for the Dodgers, because you also look. Teoscar Hernandez, he opted out. Andy Pages, he opted out. Freddie Freeman, he opted out. There are players who probably experienced this before that they're like, okay, you know what? We already lived it. We don't need to go through it right now, especially coming off of the last 2 off seasons for the Dodgers. They were funky. After playing their opening days in Asia the last 2 years in 24 and 25, now in 26, it's like, you know what? I want to be able to come to a regular spring training and start the regular season the right way with our team. And Sasaki, let's be honest, he is so young that he's more than likely going to play like 2 or 3 of these in the future, which might not be the case for Ohtani and Yamamoto, where it's like, okay, they can win another 1 or 2 of these and then call it a day and let the future stars of their country take over for them. But right now, and in today's day and age, this is perfect for Shohei and Yamamoto. For Sasaki, maybe not so much.
Yeah, he like you said, I think he's got some time to go. And I think, you know, kind of going back to those other players you mentioned, whether it's Freeman, whether it's Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Pages. Pages is kind of in the middle ground there. But I think you're spot on. The Dodgers have opened their season in Korea or Japan 2 years in a row. They've ended their season late into October, early November. They've played about as long and as across the world as you possibly can. And as a veteran player like Freeman, like Teoscar Hernandez, cranking it back up to full competition intensity right out of the gates in March may not be in their best interest, may not be in the Dodgers' best interest. And again, Teoscar Hernandez, been in the big leagues a long time. Freddie Freeman, been in the big leagues a long time. Those guys know what they can and can't do and how to get their bodies ready for those moments. Pages is still a young player, so, you know, maybe he's just tired. Maybe he just wants to make sure that he's ready to go. I think that obviously, you know, his role on this team is one of the few roles that I think isn't 1,000% secure. I think it's really close to that, considering he was, you know, second in the team in home runs last year. I think Andy Pages is a nice player, but maybe he wants to commit fully to playing for the Dodgers and not worrying about the WBC. And I can appreciate that. And I certainly understand that. But those older players that do decide to play, I don't worry about them too much. I think they're going to be just fine.
When a $60 million player gets signed, $60 million per year, which is pretty much what Kyle Tucker averages. I know with the deferrals and the movement and all that, it's a little change, but let's call him a $60 million. Yeah, it's 60. Kyle Tucker's a $60 million per year player. When he gets signed and takes your spot at right field and you get shifted to left, it's like, hey, you know what? I better be out here and play it safe and show this team my interest on being on this roster, because it can change like this. You could get traded, something could happen, or you can we're going to be talking about the prospects on the pipeline coming up for the Dodgers. You can get replaced by one of those guys. So I feel it's fantastic for Teo. Yamamoto.
He may get traded anyway. You know, he could do all of this stuff and be there every single day and be the incredible teammate that he is. And I know that Teo is an incredibly popular guy with fans, with teams, with his teammates, I should say. I don't want to say the Dodgers don't care, but that won't be the reason he stays. The reason he stays will be because they believe he gives them their best chance to win. If they think they can get better by trading him, they will. Just, you know, him just being around, I don't think is going to be the thing that keeps him around.
And with Yamamoto, he is a fascinating situation because you go to last year and you put him up there and be like, yeah, he's one of our aces. And that's one of the great benefits that the Dodgers have right now. They don't only have a Skubal or a Skeens up at the rotation and be like, that's our number one. The Dodgers could go that way with Glasnow, with Snell, with Ohtani, and you can keep on going with the list. Yamamoto, he will be able to go out there with Team Japan and pitch. They're not going to use him the way the Dodgers used him in the postseason with complete games, with having to carry him throughout the tournament. But it's going to be a different type of ramp up than what he would have in spring training, where it's like 1-2 innings and you're good. It's going to be a different kind of pressure, but I feel that that's going to have him even more ready for when opening day rolls around at Dodger Stadium.
Yeah, he's a pro's pro. We saw what he was able to do at the end of the season. I will say this, and this is where I think being a fierce competitor, the way that Yamamoto is, can occasionally cut the wrong way. that I do think that when you get into a tournament situation like the WBC and there's an opportunity to win a game and there's an opportunity to throw a pitch, there's an opportunity to help your country, that even if you go into this thing saying, I'm maybe not take it easy, but I'm going to be exceptionally cautious going in here, and my team, my major league team is my number one priority, where all of a sudden that competitive juice kicks in. It's like, man, I'm going to go for it. I'll be all right. I'm going to go. And that's when weird decisions can get made. But like I said at the beginning, with Yamamoto and Ohtani, I think those guys are professional enough, smart enough, gifted enough, talented enough to make the right call.
Now, Ohtani, a final call hasn't been made yet, but would you like to see him pitch in the World Baseball Classic?
No.
Not at all. Not one inning. Not any type of scenario.
If he does, I don't think it's the end of the world. I mean, again, Shohei Ohtani knows his body better than anybody else. Shohei Ohtani has been able to do what he's been able to do because he understands how to use these gifts that he's been given. That said, he's also had 2 arm reconstructions. He's somebody that is injury prone on the mound and has had a couple of, major situations. So I would prefer to see him just DH and crank balls out of the ballpark. But if he does pitch a little bit, I don't think it's the end of the world. But if you're asking me if I'd like to see it, no, I would like to see him just swing the bat.
Best case scenario for the Dodgers, do we agree? Team Japan just smoking everybody and don't even give Ohtani that train of thought of being like, man, they might need me here late in the game. Let me go out there, right? Have them smoke everyone.
Works for me. Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, look, I love the WBC. You love the WBC. The last one we saw was one of the great tournaments, baseball tournaments that you're ever going to see. But I care about the Dodgers a lot more than I care about the WBC. So if that means that those guys got to have their foot on the brake a little bit, that's okay too.
Hey, we're baseball junkies, so having the World Baseball Classic this year, it's like, okay, it just gives us more energy to be like, okay, February, March, we ain't got to wait until April to get real baseball. And look, Japan has won 3 of the last 5 World Baseball Classics, and with Ohtani and Yamamoto leading the way, they'll definitely be the favorites once again. Next, on Locked On Dodgers, MLB Pipeline and Keith Law both dropped new top 100 prospect lists, and the Dodgers showed up in a big way. This system isn't just good, it's terrifying. Thank you for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Dodgers with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. Built to last, the Dodgers pipeline is a machine. The Dodgers are chasing a rare three-peat at the big league level, but at the same time, they might have the deepest farm system in all of baseball because MLB Pipeline just released its 2026 top 100 prospect list, and the Dodgers placed 5 players on it. Keith Law from The Athletic, he went even further. 7 Dodgers in his top 100 list, tied with the Mariners for the most in it. Travis, this just shows you the Dodgers, they are a machine that keeps on going. And yes, the big signings, the players on the big league level, that stacked lineup, it steals the spotlight left and right. But they are ready also. If something changes and they need to go with their prospects, they got some of the best in the system right now.
Yeah, and those prospects can bring you proven major leaguers too. Like this is one of the great assets that the Dodgers have. It's not just that they're able to draft and develop better than everybody, which I'll get into in just one second, but they can flip prospects for proven major leaguers that are getting ready to leave their own team. The most recent example of that is when they went and did the deal with the Washington Nationals, where they got Trey Turner and Max Scherzer, 2 guys. Max Scherzer's a Hall of Famer. Trey Turner is a multiple-time All-Star along the way. 4 prospects, and those prospects, sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but there's no question about whether or not a player like Trey Turner is a good player, whether or not a player like Max Scherzer is what you want. So it's just an asset as much as it is maybe a player for the future. Now, the other side of that, I think, is just as exciting if you're a Dodger fan, and this is why if there is some sort of salary structure that levels the economics of baseball to some degree, I think the Dodgers are still at the front of the pack. Think about this. Not only do they have more top 100 prospects than a lot of these other teams and just about all of these other teams, this is the most important part. They pick last, right? So the other teams get to go through this and say, I'll take this guy or I'll take that guy. And the Dodgers just sit there with their hands in their lap saying, yeah, go ahead. We might have to pick 30th, but we're still going to identify a better player than you are. We're still going to be able to develop that player more effectively than you are. We're still going to get them to the big leagues quicker than you are. And this is what they are better at that has nothing to do, at least directly, with money. It has to do with scouting talent. It has to do with understanding what it is you're looking for. And I know I pick on the Angels a lot, but I'm going to do it again. The Angels are picking near the top every year, and they never have guys on this list. They rarely have guys at the top. You think of teams like the Pirates. You think of teams that are always near the bottom of the standings. The Colorado Rockies. When is the White Sox? You know, they're not reloading. The Dodgers, who pick 30th year after year after year, are always at the top. That is that is an equal advantage to their economic might. And even if the economics get leveled out, the Dodgers will not lose the advantage they have in that department.
No doubt about it. And look, Travis, the Dodgers pick last. And this year, it's when they pick because of the signings of Edwin Diaz and Kyle Tucker. They lost a bunch of draft picks as compensations because they had qualifying offers with their teams, the Mets and the Cubs, respectively. And I still feel that whichever players they do end up picking with the limited draft picks they have, in a couple of years, if we're still here, we're going to be talking about those guys being like, ooh, you see this great steal that the Dodgers have? Because what is the main thing that people talk about? Oh, the Dodgers outspend everyone. And here's the number that people don't see. The type of money that the Dodgers spend on their scouts, on their front office, on the people looking for talent and making decisions. They don't publish those numbers. We don't know how much money they make, but I'm pretty sure that you look at Andrew Friedman, at Brandon Gomes, and all the staff that they have, and they're outspending teams that way too. But that's what you also need. You need people in the right positions that know what they're doing and bringing in the type of players. Because last week, the players that got signed by the Dodgers internationally came out, and for every Erisbela Ruebarena, when was the last time you heard that name that the Dodgers signed like a decade ago that had a lot of hype and he didn't end up panning out the way that he does, comes in Andy Pages, who probably didn't have that type of hype, and he's a two-time World Series champion with a big being a big contributor last year. So it's like, hey, these guys, they are coming in, and go ahead, Travis, before we go into the list and tell people where these guys ended up ranking.
Yeah, it's just, it is a remarkable advantage that because prospects very rarely become stars. Sometimes they become major leaguers. Sometimes they become, afterthoughts, like you mentioned, like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. But yes, for every Yordan Alvarez that you do trade away that turns into a prolific major leaguer, there are 20 more guys you're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. And major league talent is always what you're looking for. And I'm not going to do their show for them, the Cam brothers that do Locked On Lakers, because they do a great job. Friends of mine, Andy and Brian, you should check those guys out at Locked On Lakers. But what Harry just described is exactly why, if you're a Laker fan, and I know a lot of Dodger fans are Laker fans too, are going to be as excited as we have been for a long time, because all of that behind the scenes stuff, all of that, back room stuff, not the players, is an advantage as well. When you can spend more on your analytics, your scouting, your development, your training, your coaching, all of these things where it is not capped, you can start to develop an advantage the way that the Dodgers have. I think that's where the Lakers will do it as well, because Mark Walter and his group are incredibly shrewd, incredibly smart, and they know that it's more than just, I'll take that player or this player. It's, I'll take that player or this player, and I'm going to put it in a system that knows how to support them.
Let's go with the MLB Pipeline prospect rankings. They have 3 Dodgers in the top 30. Josue de Paula, number 15. Zahir Hope, number 27. Eduardo Quintero, number 30. What do these 3 guys have in common? They're all outfielders.
Yeah.
Then you add number 60, Mike Sirota. He is also an outfielder. And then Emil Morales comes in at 92. He's a shortstop. When you go over to Keith Law's top 100 over at The Athletic, Eduardo Quintero, they have him ranked top 10, Travis, number 9. So that's positive. Josue de Paula, number 20. Zahir Hope, number 36. Sirota coming in at 51. And then you have River Ryan, who we can't forget about him because he's coming back. He's ranked at number 55. Emil Morales, number 65. And Alex Freeland, number 87, who we got a chance to see part of what he can do last year with the Dodgers. But man, you look at these guys and you can only get excited. And here's where one thing that always is in the back of my mind, Travis. Remember those Dodgers from the 2010s and the early 2020s that were 2020 World Series champions, but then the almost Dodgers, they had a lot of guys that they brought up from their farm system who were a key part to be getting that deep in the playoffs, getting in the playoffs and getting deep in the playoffs. Now it's not the same case. Which do you prefer? Just buying a lot of players, winning the World Series pretty much, or competing with your guys and going far, but maybe not winning as much?
Yeah, I think when it's all said and done, it doesn't matter a ton as long as you're winning where the guys are coming from. I think that, a championship is a championship is a championship, and you're excited to get one. That being said, I do like it a little more when you get to know these guys and see them get a little better, and you see them show up fresh-faced, and you see them show up a little bit big-eyed, like, wow, this is the big leagues, especially when you get to the Dodgers, and then all of a sudden you see them settle in, and you see them start to kind of have their shoulders back, and like, I belong here. Like, think about Cody Bellinger and Corey Seager and Walker Buehler and these guys that came through, and you saw them when they didn't have any hair on. Kershaw is a great example. And all of a sudden it's like, wait, this guy's a grizzled old guy. That's a lot of fun. I also like getting Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani. That's fun too. So I don't think that there's a bad way to do it, but it is fun when you see these guys come through the system. And the Dodgers, like you just said, they got a lot of outfielders. We've seen River Ryan and Alex Freeland at the big league level, and they've had some success, but I'm excited because, Teo is probably not going to be here for, a million more years. We'll see what happens with Pages. Even Kyle Tucker is, a 4-year deal and very expensive, but there are some opportunities and opt-outs there. So I think we're going to see some of those outfielders in the big leagues before too long.
No doubt about it. I remember when I lived in El Paso for nearly 5 years, they opened a brand new ballpark and they became the AAA affiliates for the San Diego Padres. Shout out to the El Paso Chihuahuas. Every time the OKC Dodgers went and played there, I would always get front row seats. And I loved getting to meet like Jock Peterson or Corey Seager, Austin Barnes, guys that I ended up watching with the Dodgers in the big league level. And it's like, hey, you felt that connection with those guys that you probably don't feel as close with the superstar as Shohei Ohtani, that you're more than likely never going to get an opportunity to even just shake his hand, let alone an autograph or a picture. But it's like, I love those times when we had prospects coming up and giving them opportunities. Hopefully some of these guys, we get to talk about them in the same way someday in the near future. All right, coming up on Locked On Dodgers, we're breaking down the Dodgers' massive national TV schedule because opening day is on NBC, Sunday nights, Fox, ESPN, Peacock, and why no team gets more primetime love than LA? Don't forget to follow Locked On Dodgers not only on YouTube, but on X, Instagram, and TikTok as well. You can find Travis on social media at Travis Rogers on X and Instagram. Meanwhile, I'm at Harry Ruiz on X, at Harry_Ruiz on Instagram, and at Harry Ruiz_ on TikTok. I promise more sports content coming up soon. For now, it's a lot of baby content because our baby just turned 10 days old yesterday. All right, lights, camera, Dodgers, baseball's main event. If it feels like the Dodgers are almost always on national TV, Travis, it's because they are. Once again, Dodgers are leading baseball in exclusive national broadcast, continuing a trend that's been building for years. And when you have the type of stars the Dodgers have, the type of results the Dodgers are getting, and the type of market the Dodgers play in, and the type of international and national fan base they have, they deserve this.
Yeah, you hit them all. The reason that they're on national TV more than any other team is very, very obvious. Number one, they play in the second biggest media market in the country in Los Angeles, so their home fans are going to consume the product at a very, very high level. Number two, they have international players all over the place. So you're going to get, people from different backgrounds and cultures. They're going to be consuming the product because somebody from their homeland might, is playing for the Dodgers. That's a big part of it as well. They're really good right? So there's always going to put on a show. They have stars and no bigger than Shohei Ohtani that everybody wants to see. That even if you're a baseball fan in Cleveland or Baltimore or Miami, watching Shohei Ohtani is pretty fun, even if he doesn't play for your team. And I think lastly, and maybe most importantly, as we sit here right now, everybody hates him that's not a Dodger fan. You know, it's 29 markets against one. It's everybody against the Dodgers. And whether it's a movie, a book, whatever, you need a good villain. You need somebody to root against. You need somebody that you hope they fail. And quite frankly, the less often they fail, the more hateable they become. And the Dodgers, like you mentioned at the top of the show, are getting ready to go for their third World Series. So every single person that's not a Dodger fan, and now, you know, in particular now because of the economics of it all, are going to be rooting like crazy against the Dodgers. Dodgers know this. Television networks know this. So putting them on front and center over and over again makes perfect sense. They are box office for their fans and for everybody that's not a fan.
Yeah, in 2023 and 2025, the Dodgers had 17 games that were televised or streamed exclusively on one network or Apple TV. Then 16 games in 2024. So far in 2026, we're looking at 4 games on NBC, which I love because that means that everybody can watch with no limitation as long as you have an antenna. 6 games on Fox, 1 on ESPN, and then you have 4 more on FS1 and TBS. But these last 4, Travis, for those of us that enjoy watching the great programming that Sportsnet LA has, they also have the rights to broadcast those games for the markets that the Dodgers have, which, interestingly enough, I live in Vegas, and we're considered one of the Dodgers markets. Like, I have to pay an extra package to be able to watch Dodgers games. I don't have cable, so I pay for it through MLB TV, which last season was clutch. It's the first time that they ever allowed that, and it's fantastic. But you look at those numbers, and you still don't have Apple TV, which I'm 1,000% sure they're going to grab at least 5 Dodgers games. And you're talking about 20 games nationally, at least, in my opinion, that the fans all over the country are going to be able to watch, and that's fantastic. If you don't have MLB TV and you only watch select games, unlike us who are nuts who watch over 130 games a year, that's going to be awesome. And that's one of the reasons why players love coming to LA. Besides the money, besides playing with Shohei Ohtani, you get a bigger spotlight than if you are a great player like Bobby Witt over in Kansas City.
Yeah, people get to see you. No question about it. You know, you mentioned the various platforms that these teams are on. And like you said, you and I are both a little bit sick in this department that we're going to try to see as many as we can. I literally bought Apple TV for no reason other than to get the 2 or 3 Dodger games that were on there last year. And because they picked the right games, they put them on there, and I want to see them. And this is why they're on all of these plays. They're going to get as many people into the tent as you possibly can. And nothing is better than saying, come on in and see the 2-time defending champs. Come on in and see Shohei Ohtani. Come on in and see Mookie Betts. And, you know, the guys that run these networks are no dummies. They understand what gets people in. And this is why the Dodgers and the Yankees and these teams are there over and over and over again. They got the biggest stars. They've got the biggest audiences. And that's what you're going to see. You're not going to see a lot of Orioles versus Guardians games on national TV very often.
Yeah, the more people you draw to watch games on your networks, on your streaming platforms, it's more dinero, more money. Sure. I remember I had HBO Max, but I had like the basic package. And then when the playoffs started and the Dodgers were on the Turner networks, I had to upgrade to watch the games on my phone. And guess what I did? I upgraded, and now it's January 26th, and I still have the upgraded package because I got it back in October. So it's worth it for people to end up spending money, these type of networks, on platforms like Major League Baseball, that then you end up getting access to the Dodgers that sometimes you don't have. Because what's the big thing that the Dodgers always get? Oh, they have that big TV deal. They got that big TV money coming in on the local. It's like, well, guess what? Nationally, they are one of the big draws with the Yankees, with the Red Sox, with the Cubs, that maybe teams like the Rays definitely don't have. The Dodgers, they are going to get teams and networks to buy into broadcasting Major League Baseball and bringing in more money, not just for the Dodgers, but for every single team in front office.
Yeah, no, look, they're the engine that drives this, and they've turned on every possible revenue stream that exists, and they're taking full advantage of it, like we've talked about many, many times.
Hey, stars matter. Winning matters, and
Sure.
the Dodgers, they check every single box. This team isn't just relevant, they're essential viewing. All right, that'll do it for today's pod. Thank you so much for making Locked On Dodgers your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Tomorrow, Travis, he doesn't know about this, but we're going to dive into the divisional opponents for the boys in blue.
Good.
What have the Padres, Giants, D-backs, and Rockies done or not so far in the offseason? Because that's also a storyline that we got to keep an eye on.
I can't wait to do it. We're getting closer. We got WBC. We've got divisional matchups. We got a whole bunch of stuff. Let's get to it.
If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On Dodgers ad-free, plus members-only Discord access, and more. Head to LockedOnDodgers.supercast.com to join the club. For those of you on video, we send you over to the first ever 24/7 national Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure you make your second listen of the day Locked On MLB. Travis and I appreciate you riding with us. Until next time, keep it real, keep it Dodger Blue.